Hello and welcome back to Boxing Bucks and picking out the best fighter in each of them. First, I will establish some rules. Secondly, we will be using boxes rated in Ring Magazine due to their quality and ease of displaying fighters. Finally, when there are fighters of equal skill, we will decide who's better by comparing how many top 10 fighters they can beat. If that is tied, we will see if they can beat each other. Anyways, be sure to like, comment and subscribe for more videos like this, and comment down below if you disagree with any of my opinions and options while offering your own reasoning. Without further delays, let's get started with the video. The strawweight division has been shaken up by the arrival of the Shigoka Brothers, having older brother Yudai Shigoka upsetting and beating long-reigning WBC champion Benchman CP Freshmart, and his brother finally capturing the IBF title from Daniel Valladares. Currently, the division is split up by having 4 champions, being the current WA Super Champion Knockout CP Freshmart and the WBO Champion Oscar Collazo. Currently, they are respectively ranked in the top 4 of the division, but this division is going to be run by the 2 Shigoka brothers as their talent and skill surpass the other fighters and champion. My opinion for this is coming from reviewing all the current champions fights, and I see Knockout CP Freshmart losing to both Shigoka brothers and Collazo due to his lackluster footwork, stationary high guard which can be exploited by many fighters in this division. Although Knockout CP Freshmart is the longest reigning champion today, I feel that his lack of activity and style would be ending poorly for him when he faces the other 3 champions. The next champion I've decided to eliminate is Oscar Collazo, being the next to lose due to his issues of dropping his right hand before throwing a punch and him dropping his high guard when advancing and attacking. I feel that both Shigoka brothers can exploit these tendencies and lead to a points decision or even a knockout. Now that we are left with Yudai and Ginjiro Shigoka, let's compare both. Yudai Shigoka has 8 fights, 8 wins, 5 coming by way of knockout, having beaten good names like Benchman CP Freshmart and Wilfredo Mendes. He uses a tactical boxing style, fighting out of the southpaw stance, having his lead hand extended while having his rear tucked close to his body and chin. He uses in and out movement to come in and throw precise combinations and retreating to leave his opponents of having no chance of countering. Now we look at Ginjiro Shigoka, having 11 fights, 10 wins, 8 coming by way of knockout and 1 no contest. He has beaten good names like Daniel Valladares and Rene Marquardt. He has the same style as his brother, fighting out the southpaw stance, using the same kind of footwork. However, he has some differences like focusing on counters with his lead hand and mostly using his rear hand for blocking and throwing some inside shots. But when he's in his rhythm, he can land precise and powerful blows to the opponent's body which can drop him, as displayed in his second outing with Daniel Valladares. If they were both to fight for some reason, I see this being a tougher tactical affair for both of them, as they will be facing skilled southpaws with similar styles to one another. But I'll slightly lean towards Ginjiro due to pointing his opponent's jab and being more reserved when it comes to getting his opponent's head, which allows him to focus on counters. So in the end, I see Ginjiro Shigoka being the best fighter in the strawweight division. Now, moving on to our next division. The light flyweight division is filled with many great fighters and has had a recent upset with the IBF champion Sivananti Nonshinga being knocked out by Adrian Curiel, but a rematch is set to take place next year. Currently, this division has 3 champions, being the aforementioned IBF champion Adrian Curiel, the WBO champion Jonathan Gonzalez, and the unified WBA, WBC and Ring Magazine champion Kenshiro Teraji. Currently, I feel that there is a unanimous king of the division, and that is Kenshiro Teraji, having 23 fights, 22 wins, 14 coming by way of knockout and 1 loss. Kenshiro Teraji has beaten great fighters like Heki Butler, Masamichi Yabuki, Hiroto Kyoguchi and Ganegan Lopez. Teraji is a pound-for-pound fighter, displaying great skill, having excellent defense, counter-punching and precise punch selection. Teraji uses a standard guard while making use of in-and-out footwork, which allows him to fight at his own rhythm. And recently, Kenshiro Teraji has displayed great ring hardened ability in his fight with Heki Butler, where he was able to break him down and get a stoppage. In the end, I feel that Kenshiro Teraji, after beating Carlos Canizales, can look forward to unifying the division with either Jonathan Gonzalez or the winner of Nonshinga vs Curiel to establish his claim on the pound-for-pound list. Now, moving on to our next division, we have the flyweight division has currently had major changes in their rankings, having Jesse Bam Rodriguez defeating Sonny Edwins to become the IBF and WBO flyweight champion. This division has 2 other champions, those being Julio Cesar Martinez, the WBC flyweight champion, and Artem Delakian, the WBA flyweight champion. Although Bam has told reporters that he wants to move back to the super flyweight division, I'm still gonna rank him based on the flyweight division due to having his most impressive work done here. First, I'm gonna remove the weakest champion in the division, and that is Artem Delakian, who is clearly out of his prime and is very vulnerable to other great fighters. Seeing as his outboxing technique is getting worse due to his advanced age and being slower than usual. And I feel like guys like Julio Cesar Martinez, Bam Rodriguez and Sonny Edwards would be able to get the opportunity to counter and beat him down. The next champion I would feel would lose is Julio Cesar Martinez, due to other fighters having good ring IQ, footwork and counter-punching ability to easily outbox Martinez, as sometimes he is predictable and leaves himself to get countered. So in the end, I feel like it would be down to Jesse Bam Rodriguez and Sonny Edwards, and we already saw how that already occurred. So in the end, I see Jesse Bam Rodriguez as the best fighter in flyweight. Jesse Rodriguez has 19 fights, 19 wins, 12 coming by way of knockout. He has defeated great fighters such as Sonny Edwards, Trisakitso Rongvisa and Carlos Cuadras. Jesse Bam Rodriguez is a level above all the fighters in the division. His boxer punching style and adaptability is great, as shown in the Sonny Edwards fights, where he showed his pressure fighting skills and outboxing skills. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, in my opinion, is the best fighter in the division and a pound for pound star. Moving on to our next division, we have the current super flyweight division is filled with a bunch of great fighters like Kazuto Ioka, Kosei Tanaka, Junto Nakatani and Fernando Martinez, while having a mix of legends like Juan Francisco Estrada, Roman Gonzalez, Trisakitso Rongvisa and Carlos Cuadras. Although Nakatani is moving to the Bantamweight division, I'm still gonna rate him among the super flyweights. Currently, we have Estrada as the ring and WBC champion, Ioka as the WBA champion, Nakatani was the WBO champion, and Martinez is the IBF champion. Even though this division is strong, I feel like one of the weakened champions in the division is Martinez, due to his pressure style and lower guard leaves him vulnerable to counters and other better pressure fighters, so I feel that his skill set won't allow him to be considered the best in the division. Another issue I see is some legends are not young enough to compete against the younger stars. An example is Cuadras and Rongvisa, who I feel are either in retirement stage or are becoming gatekeepers of the division. Now we are left with the 5 great fighters, being Nakatani, Tanaka, Ioka, Gonzalez and Estrada. So to eliminate one I feel loses to everyone mentioned is Kosei Tanaka. Although being a great inside fighter and using skillful punch precision and defense, I feel like the other fighters can exploit his weaknesses, like dropping his hands when throwing punches and dropping his right hand before a combination, which was exploited by Kazuto Ioka, who knocked him out. I feel like Estrada's and Gonzalez's experience and strength will prove too much for him. Ioka has already beaten him before, and Nakatani's power, length and size will offer a challenge to Tanaka as well, as his usual inside fighting style won't be effective at bullying Nakatani or being able to escape his reach. Next to go is, in my opinion, the one with the most potential, that being Nakatani. Although having the physical advantage and good boxing technique, the other's ability to adapt and experience against tougher foes will not make these bouts easy for Nakatani, as Ioka can outbox him, Estrada can outwork him and outbox him, while Gonzalez may be easier to beat at first due to his simple come forward style. I feel that the pressure he imposes would be too much for Nakatani to handle. Now we are left with Estrada, Ioka and Gonzalez, and I feel that unfortunately the one to lose is Gonzalez, due to his style being repetitive and somewhat predictable, as most people have deciphered it. Ioka's tactical boxing style and skills will prove too difficult for Gonzalez to corner him and land his usual powerful shots, and Estrada has fought him 3 times, and each time, although close fights, he has solved and found holes in his style. Now we can break down the top 2 fighters, Estrada and Ioka. Juan Francisco Estrada is the current ring and WBC champion and a 2-division champion, having 47 fights, 44 wins, 28 coming by KO and 3 losses. He has defeated great opposition like Roman Gonzalez, Carlos Cuadras, Trisakitso Rongvisa, Brian Valoria and Argy Cortez. He is the pinnacle of what it means to be a boxer puncher, as he has shown his great inside fighting skills when he was able to beat Gonzalez at his own game, and outboxing technique when he was able to stop Gonzalez's usual pressure style approach. He has showed his great use of footwork and angles to pivot and confuse his opponents, and that makes him one of the most dangerous fighters in the division. Moving on to Kazuto Ioka, he is a 4-weight world champion, having 33 fights, 30 wins, 15 coming by way of knockout, 2 losses and 1 draw. He has defeated great fighters like Joshua Franco, Donnie Niaitis, Kosei Tanaka, Kittipong Grachang, Francisco Rodriguez Jr., Felix Alvarado and Arika Yagashi. He, like Estrada, is a great boxer puncher with precise punch selection, counterpunching skills and defense. He has displayed his great outside fighting skills with Tanaka, where he is able to box him from the back foot, and his great inside fighting skills being able to beat Tanaka to the punch. Ioka is a very calm and collected fighter when it comes to dealing with pressure and combination punches, while having great ring IQ to deal with most opponents. In the end, this fight is a very tough affair for both boxer punchers, as they have similar skill levels, and the only way to solve this is if they were to fight each other. I feel if Ioka and Estrada were to fight each other multiple times, I would slightly favor Kazuto Ioka. This fight would be remarkably close due to Kazuto Ioka and Estrada having similar age, similar physical dimensions, and similar experience fighting in championship fights. But I see Ioka's experience in more weight divisions, less damage from wars, and overall slightly better boxing skills being able to defeat Estrada. So I feel like Kazuto Ioka is the best fighter in the super flyweight division. Moving on to our next division, we have the Bantamweight division is currently rebuilding itself from Naoya Inoue's domination, resulting in it having 4 champions, being Takuma Inoue having the WBA belt, Jason Maloney having the WBO belt, Emmanuel Rodriguez having the IBF belt, and Alejandro Santiago having the WBC belt. The division also has title contenders like Paul Butler, Ryosuke Nishida, and potentially Nonito Donaire. Although the division is rebuilding itself and having a new era to experience, there are 2 champions who can have a claim to the division, that is Jason Maloney and Emmanuel Rodriguez. Although Takuma Inoue has good skill and counter abilities, his style is too aggressive for his build due to him lacking power to fight in the inside for too long, which can be countered by both Rodriguez and Maloney's power. Alejandro saw each other before, but now we have to break it down. Emmanuel Rodriguez is the current IBF Bantamweight champion, having 25 fights, 22 wins, 13 KOs, 2 losses, and 1 no contest. He has defeated good opponents like Gary Antonio Russell, Jason Maloney, and Paul Butler. Rodriguez is a boxer punch star, being able to fight in the inside wall and throw accurate combinations, and being able to use counter-punching and outboxing to deal with his opponents. Now moving on to Jason Maloney, who is the current WBO Bantamweight champion, having 28 fights, 26 wins, 19 KOs, and 2 losses. He has beaten in good competition like Koi Kono, Joshua Greer Jr., and Vicente Astrolabio. Maloney has an inside fighting style, applying a lot of pressure and using body punching and head hunting to break down and hurt his opponents. In the end, a fight between these two had occurred before where Emmanuel Rodriguez won a split decision. But if they were to fight a second time, Rodriguez would be able to defeat Maloney more decisively due to his better outboxing experience and higher ring IQ, which can dismantle Maloney's simple style. And I feel that Jason Maloney will be able to beat him in the early rounds but would lose on the latter rounds. So I feel Emmanuel Rodriguez is the best bantamweight fighter. Moving on to our next division, we have the Super Bantamweight division has had major disruptions within its rankings due to Naoya Inoue defeating the number 1 fighter Stephen Fulton, and where Marlon Tapales has upset Marujan Akhmadaliev to become a unified champion as well. And in the upcoming week, we have a fight between these two. As much as I don't want to doubt Tapales, as his inside fighting style can offer a lot of issues for Naoya Inoue, as Naoya Inoue has troubles dealing with inside fighters, I still feel like Naoya Inoue is levels above all his opposition in the Super Bantamweight division. His defense, strength, positioning, and precision is a step above all the others. His ring IQ is exceptional. He has a good jab and good footwork to deal with most opponents. So I feel that Naoya Inoue makes it a hard challenge for anyone that comes to boxing, no matter the style they bring. So in the end, I see Naoya Inoue being the best fighter in the division, and if he's able to beat Tapales unanimously, will most likely secure a spot as the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. Moving on to our next division, we have the featherweight division currently has a lot of talent and skilled fighters. Even though Leigh Wood is eyeing to leave the division, I'm still going to mention him within this conversation. This division has 4 champions, being Luis Alberto Lopez with the IBF strap, Ray Vargas with the WBC belt, Leigh Wood with the WBA belt, and Rafael Espinosa, who upset Roberto Ramirez to become the new WBO champion. This division also has great contenders like Brandon Figueroa, Roberto Ramirez, Mauricio Lara, and Josh Waddington. First, I'm going to eliminate the fighters with the most exploitable weaknesses, starting with Waddington, who's coming off a loss to Leigh Wood, where although he was winning early, he eventually got caught and stopped. Waddington, although being a former champion and having great wins over guys like Carl Frampton, has a couple of weaknesses that won't take him to the top, as his blatant cheating tactics, which results in judges not being in his favor, small build for the division, and fighting on the inside even though he lacks the power will never allow him to reach the pinnacle of their division. So that's why I feel like he should be removed first. Next, I'll remove Roberto Ramirez, who has fundamental weaknesses such as a lack of jab, lack of punch output, which won't allow him to be the top contenders in the division. Next, we have to remove 2 fighters, being Brandon Figueroa and Rafael Espinosa, whose Mexican style, although effective, won't let them beat guys with better boxing abilities and better punch selection like Alberto Lopez and Ray Vargas. Now we are left with Lara, Vargas, Lopez, and Wood, all being great fighters who offer different challenges. I would eliminate Lara first because although beating Wood in their first outing, I still feel like he will struggle against the other 2 contenders in Lopez and Vargas. Because even though Wood got knocked out in the first outing and Wood avenged it in the second outing, I still feel that Wood has the slight advantage over Lara due to his fundamental boxing style and ability to improve and get better throughout the fight. But anyways, I still feel that Lara is a great contender and can win a few belts if he focuses on improving his defense and focusing on the body more. The next fighter to be removed from this group is Leywood, as although being a good textbook boxer and having good strength and hard to win fights, I still feel like Luis Alberto Lopez and Ray Vargas will offer him too many challenges, as Lopez's unorthodox punch selection defeats Wood's textbook boxing and his constant switching of stance, and Ray Vargas' length and strength offer too many problems due to his use of effective body punching and head hunting. So now we are left with Lopez and Vargas. Luis Alberto Lopez is the current IBF featherweight champion, having 31 fights, 29 wins, 16 coming by KO, and 2 losses. He has beaten good fighters like Joet Gonzalez, Michael Conlon, and Josh Warrington. He makes use of an unorthodox style of boxing, which constantly leaves him switching stances between his punches and having awkward punch selection, which confuses his opponents. He has decent punch output and decent defense, as his reflexes allow him to keep safe but not entirely. So next up, we'll move on to Ray Vargas. Vargas has 37 fights, 36 wins, 22 KOs, and 1 loss. He has defeated good opposition such as Mark Maxayo, Tomiki Kameda, and Gavin McDonald. Ray Vargas is a lengthy fighter who uses pressure and body shot combinations to break down his opponents. If a fight between Lopez and Vargas were to occur, I would favor Vargas due to his more precise power punch selection that can catch Lopez in between his stance switching. So in the end, I'll call Ray Vargas the best fighter in the featherweight division. But if you have differing opinions to mine, like believing Leywood or Lopez is the best fighter, leave it down below and explain your reasoning. Moving on to the next division, we have the super featherweight division. While not being as popular as the other heavier divisions, it still has a lot of talented fighters like Emmanuel Navarrete, Osheki Foster, Joe Cordina, Robson Conseco, Oscar Valdez, and Lamont Roach Jr. This division currently has 4 champions, being Emmanuel Navarrete, the WBO champion, Oshaki Foster, the WBC champion, Joe Cordina, the IBF champion, and Lamont Roach Jr., the newly crowned WBA champion after beating Hector Luis Garcia. First, I'll remove fighters who are less likely to be the top tier competition and champions in the divisions, those being Lamont Roach Jr., Oscar Valdez, and Hector Luis Garcia. Now we are left with the remaining champions, those being Navarrete, Foster, Cordina, and Conseco. In my opinion, the weakest link within these champions is Joe Cordina, although having a next fighter I will remove from this group is Conseco, who although being able to box well and fight on the inside well, the other two can give him problems. As although Navarrete being pushed to a decision by him can see that they're on equal footing, I still feel that Navarrete can adapt and beat him in their next outing. And Foster's being younger and having a more pure style will allow him to just outbox Conseco and probably beat him from the inside, as he showed in his fight with Eduardo Hernandez. Now that we're left with Emmanuel Navarrete and Osheki Foster, now we can put them against each other, starting with Emmanuel Navarrete. Navarrete is a 3-division champion and the current WBO champion, having 40 fights, 38 wins, 31 KOs, 1 loss, and 1 draw. He has beaten great competition like Oscar Valdez, Liam Wilson, Isaac Dogbe, and Joet Gonzalez. Navarrete has a unique pressure style, making use of his long reach to break his opponents down with long and lengthy combinations, and mixing up leaping hooks which can catch opponents off guard, making him hard to figure out. Osheki Foster is the WBC champion, beating good competition like Eduardo Rocky Hernandez, Ray Vargas, and Miguel Roman. Osheki Brothers is a pure boxer with the ability to fight on the inside when necessary. He shows good footwork and counterpunching in the ring. However, in the end I see Emmanuel Navarrete beating Foster due to Foster being uncomfortable in the Hernandez fight, and Hernandez having a simple style of pressure fighting, while Navarrete's pressure style is unique and unpredictable, making it hard for Foster to do his usual countering and doing his work in the inside. So I would declare Emmanuel Navarrete the best fighter in super featherweight division. Moving on to our next division, we have the lightweight division has been shaken up by the departure of its 2 greatest talents, those being Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, but has been met with the arrival of new talent like Raymond Muratala, Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, and Jermaine Ortiz. Currently, the division only has 1 champion, being Shakur Stevenson, holding the WBC title, but we have great fighters like Javante Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, and Frank Martin. First, I'll start by removing some fighters who I see struggling with facing the top tier fighters and champions, those being Zepeda, Martin, Muratala, Cruz, Cambosos Jr., Hughes, and Ortiz. Now we are left with Lomachenko, Davis, and Stevenson. I feel that one fighter can't last long between the 3, and that is Lomachenko. Even though being one of the most accomplished and skilled boxers, his loss to Haney and Lopez has shown some weaknesses. He usually goes off to a great start and being able to beat down his opponents and cruise to a unanimous decision, but he starts to fail during the later half of the fight, and that allows his opponent to close the gap. Stevenson and Davis have the ability to achieve this against him, so I would say he's the third best fighter in the lightweight division. Now we are left with the two stars of the division, Shigoka Stevenson and Gervonta Davis. Shigoka Stevenson is a 3-division champion and the current WBC champion, having 21 fights, 21 wins, and 10 KOs, having beaten good opposition like Joet Gonzalez, Robson Consecao, Oscar Valdez, and Jamel Herring. Shigoka Stevenson is the best pure boxer in this division, having a defensive style first and being able to keep his opponent at a distance. Shigoka has good offensive capabilities that can overwhelm some opponents and good effective counter-punching to be able to drop and stop opponents. Moving on to Gervonta Davis, he is the current WBA regular lightweight champion, beating names like Ryan Garcia, Leo Santa Cruz, Hector Luis Garcia, Mario Barrios, and Jose Pedraza. Gervonta Davis is a technical boxer puncher, having good strength and speed along with it. He can box on the outside and fight on the inside, as he's displayed with many opponents. He has the ability to be patient and focus on counter-punching two aggressive opponents that walk towards him. So I feel that Gervonta Davis is one of the most complete fighters in his division and can do it all and even some things better than others. In the end, I see Shigoka Stevenson versus Gervonta Davis going towards Shigoka Stevenson's favor. Due to showing in his last fight with Antonio De Los Santos, even though being boring, we see how when he deals with a dangerous opponent, he will keep them on the outside for the entire fight and not caring what anyone else thinks. And this is a problem for Davis, as he usually works better when opponents come towards him. So I see Shigoka being able to keep Gervonta Davis at a distance for the entire fight, leading to him winning. So I feel that unanimously, Shigoka Stevenson is the best fighter at lightweight. Moving on to our next division, we have the super lightweight division is brimming with a lot of talent and great fighters like Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Subriel Matias, Josh Taylor, Gary Russell, Jack Carroll, Regis Progress, and others. Currently, this has 4 champions, being Teofimo Lopez with the ring and WBO belt, Devin Haney with the WBC belt, Subriel Matias with the IBF belt, and Rolly Romero with the WBA belt. In reality, there are only 3 good champions, with Rolly Romero not being one of them, so we can skip him and focus on the other top tier fighters. I feel that Lopez and Haney have abilities that can deal with the other champion in being Subriel Matias. Although Subriel Matias has a great pressure fighting style and being able to dismantle and break down his opponents even when they are winning early, I still feel like those guys have a better chance of beating him due to Teofimo's activity and pace at the fight to make sure Subriel Matias cannot corner him, and Devin's good distance management, making him unable to close the distance. So I feel that Subriel Matias would be counted out during this fight. Now we are left with the 2 champions, Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, both who I feel can beat a lot of the fighters in the top 10 of their division while struggling with others. Because I see Teofimo struggling with pure boxers like Sandor Martin and movers like Jack Carrero. I see Haney struggling with pressure fighters, good ones like Jose Ramirez and Gary Russell. So this makes them equals within this division. So now we have to pair them against each other to see who is going to come out on top at the peak of the super lightweight division. Teofimo Lopez is a 2-weight world champion, having 20 fights, 19 wins, 13 coming by KO and 1 loss, beating great opposition like Josh Taylor, Vasily Lomachenko, Richard Comey, and Masayoshi Nakatani. He has a great boxer puncher style using a shell type guard. He prioritizes counter punching more than he advances, but he is showing comfortability in advancing and throwing his offense. He works better on the back foot and when opponents come to him, and seems to struggle against pure boxers who will let the opponent come to them where he's unable to get his usual counters off. But still, he's shown great athletic ability, great defensive skills, and good punch precision to be able to brutalize and beat down his targets. Now we have Devin Haney, who is a 2-weight world champion with 31 fights, 31 wins, and 15 KOs. He has defeated good opposition like Vasily Lomachenko, Regis Progress, George Kambosos, and Jojo Diaz. Devin Haney is an exceptional pure boxer using a counter-punching and range manipulation skills to keep his opponents at distance. Haney, now being at 140, showed more power when he dropped and hurt Regis Progress a couple of times, but even when that occurred, he stayed reserved and didn't rush for the KO. I feel a fight between Haney and Lopez would lean towards Haney due to his style being the perfect counter for Lopez. Having a reserved boxing style and being able to keep a perfect distance from Lopez makes Lopez struggle and being too overeager to get his offense off, and that will lead him to get countered. So I feel that Devin Haney is the best fighter in the 140-pound division. Now we will move on to our next division, that being The welterweight division is going to experience a drought in activity and hype due to the biggest stars leaving the division, but it is clear who the best fighter in the division is, and that is Terence "Bud" Crawford. Terence Crawford has 40 fights, 40 wins, 31 coming by way of knockout, beating great fighters like Errol Spence Jr., David Evanesian, Sean Porter, Kell Brook, Edrigas Kavaliauskas, Amir Khan, Jeff Horn, Victor Postal, and Yurokis Gamboa. Crawford is a perfect and well-rounded fighter with the best switch hitting in boxing, effective punch selection, offense and defense. Crawford shows in his fights the ability to adapt so quickly, which making what seemed like an equal fight more unfair the longer it goes on. That is why I feel like Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the welterweight division, not being able to be stopped and being able to adapt to most people's styles, as he has more experience facing a lot of styles in the division, facing speedy guys like Amir Khan and facing tough in fighters like Sean Porter. So I feel that unanimously it's agreed upon that Terence "Bud" Crawford is the king of the welterweight division. Although Jermall Charlo hasn't fought in the super welterweight division for a while, I'll still rank him within the division due to being the lineal champion. This division has great fighters that can lead the division into a new future like Tim Tszyu, Brian Mendoza, Sebastian Fundora, Erickson Lubin, and Jesus Ramos. But this division is really led by two fighters, that being Jermall Charlo and Tim Tszyu. Jermall Charlo is the current ring, IBF, WBA, and WBC champion, having 38 fights, 35 wins, 19 coming by way of knockout, 2 losses, and 1 draw, beating good opposition like Brian Castano, Tony Harrison, Austin Trout, and Erickson Lubin. He has an aggressive style of fighting, preferring to fight off the back foot and only being aggressive when he sees his opponent hurt. He uses aggressive left hooks and he uses his overall speed and athleticism to break down and dominate his opponents. While Tim Tszyu, being the current WBO champion, having 24 fights, 24 wins, 17 coming by way of knockout, beating good opposition like Tony Harrison, Brian Mendoza, Carlos Ocampo, and Takeshi Inoue. Tim Tszyu has a textbook boxing style, making use of a high guard, and Tim Tszyu using a jab to establish the pace and starting his combinations. Tim Tszyu styles is effective at defending long combinations while being able to start powerful and lengthy combinations of his own. I feel that this style is good for him and he can work on focusing on improving his defense, as people can beat through his guard through using hooks. So in the end, I still see Jermall Charlo pulling out a win due to his aggressive fighting style, great back foot fighting, and effective left hook which can break through Tim Tszyu's guard. So I'll still say currently Jermall Charlo is the current best fighter in super welterweight division. Moving on to our next division, we have the middleweight division is in a slow state due to its lack of strong and big name fighters, but there is a clear unanimous best fighter in the division, that being Janabek Alimkhanuly. Janabek Alimkhanuly is the current unified champion, having 15 fights, 15 wins, 10 coming by way of knockout, beating fighters such as Vincenzo Guerrieri, Stephen Butler, and Denzel Bentley. He has a slick counter-punching style, making use of a shell-type guard. Janabek's aggressive and perfect counter uppercuts make it difficult for anybody that faces him, as when opponents run into him, they usually get caught with that uppercut. He has good punch selection, good body work, and a great jab. So I see Janabek Alimkhanuly as the best fighter in the middleweight division. The super middleweight division has some rising stars like Diego Pacheco, Edgar Berlanga, and David Morrell, but most people already know who the top fighters are, and that is David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. So we will start off by comparing those two, as I feel that those two can beat a lot of the good fighters in the division and beat all the prospects as well. Canelo Alvarez has 64 fights, 60 wins, 39 coming by way of knockout, 2 losses and 2 draws. Canelo Alvarez has beaten great fighters like Jermall Charlo, Gennady Golovkin, Austin Trout, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, and Daniel Jacobs. Canelo has a great boxer puncher style, but as we see, he uses a catching and countering style most of the times, relying on his strength and head movement to defeat and bewilder his opposition. Canelo uses bodywork and head hunting to destroy and defeat his opponents, breaking them down slowly throughout the fight and even being able to finish them off in the later rounds while doing damage throughout the entire fight. So I see it as a dynamic and reliable fighter. Now we have David Benavidez, having 28 fights, 28 wins, 24 coming by way of knockout. He has defeated good opposition like David Lemieux, Caleb Plant, Anthony Durrell, and Demetrius Andrade. David Benavidez is a big pressure fighter that imposes his size on his opponents, throwing lengthy combination punches that breaks through their opponent's guard. He uses reliable techniques like guard manipulation by moving the opponent's hand and aiming at the body at times to confuse his opponents on where the next punch will be. So I feel like he's a reliable combination puncher. If the both of them were to fight, I would still lean towards Canelo Alvarez, having the better experience against taller and lengthier fighters, having more experience fighting good opposition, and David Benavidez' length being towards his detriment, as although Benavidez having length, his high guard style and walking forward leaves him open at the body and at the head at times. So I feel like David Benavidez' lack of defensive skill and combination punches being able to be countered by Canelo will lead to his downfall. So I still see Canelo Alvarez as the best fighter in the super middleweight division. So let's move on to our next division, being the light heavyweight division. Is currently run by two fighters, those being Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. I feel like these two fighters can beat everyone else within the division, so I'm just pitting them against each other to see who is the true king of the division. Dmitry Bivol is the current WBA super champion, having 21 fights, 21 wins, coming with 11 knockouts, beating great opposition such as Canelo Alvarez, Gilberto Ramirez, Joe Smith Jr. and Craig Richards. He uses a Soviet style of boxing, seeming to work on a pendulum, having great and effective in and out movement. Bivol's effective combinations and punch precision offer tough test to any opponent that he faces, using his good left hook, check hook, and using good body punching and jab manipulation to make sure his opponent stays on the back foot constantly. Now we have Artur Beterbiev, being the reigning IBF, WBC and WBO champion, having 19 fights, 19 wins, all of them coming by way of knockout, having beaten good opposition such as Alexander Gvozdyk, Joe Smith Jr., Anthony Yard, and Marcus Brown. Beterbiev is an inside pressure style of fighting, having precise power punch precision and using excellent ring cutting skills to defeat and restricting his opponent's movement. I feel like when both of them meet each other, I would slightly lean towards Bivol due to Beterbiev's advancing age causing him to slow down, and Bivol's jab and combinations allowing him to push opponents back against the rope. Even though Beterbiev can offer a tough fight at his age using his skills and power punch precision and seemingly endless strength, I still would lean towards Bivol due to his younger age and more technical boxing style. Moving on to our next division, we have the Cruiserweight division has established its champions and a tier of fighters in it, having Jay Opataya, the current ring champion, being at the pinnacle of it, followed by his fellow champions Nurmagomedov Makalian, the WBC champion, Chris Billam-Smith, the WBO champion, and Arsen Golamirian, the WBA champion. Most people in this division aren't on the level of the champions, but if we were to analyze the champions, we can see that Arsen Golamirian and Chris Billam-Smith are on the weaker side of being champions, who will struggle to facing fighters like Jay Opataya, Marius Breeders, and Nurmagomedov Makalian. Now, we have Marius Breeders, Jay Opataya, and Nurmagomedov Makalian, and I will choose to eliminate Marius Breeders due to his advancing age and already seeming to be on the decline. But I would still favor him to give a competitive fight to Nurmagomedov Makalian and possibly Jay Opataya after their first encounter. We have Jay Opataya, the current ring champion, having 23 fights, 23 wins, 18 coming by way of knockout, having beaten good fighters such as Marius Breeders, Jordan Thompson, and Benjamin Kalahia. Jay Opataya makes use of a skilled guard, having his rear hand close to his body to parry and block incoming shots, while having his lead hand pointing at his opponent's jab and initiating combinations. Jay Opataya's jab is one of the best in the division, allowing him to set up lengthy combinations and manipulate opponents' guards to have them block their side. So I feel like Jay Opataya's skill gap is a lot higher than a lot of the people in the division, leaving him at the top of the division. So I feel like he's one of the best cruiserweights in a long time since the great Alexander Usyk. Now we have Nurmagomedov Makalian, the current WBC champion, having 29 fights, 27 wins, 12 coming by knockout, and 2 losses. He has defeated good fighters like Ilunga Junior Mukabu, Yuer Kayembre Kalanga, and Jesse Bryan. Noah has a similar stance to Jay Opataya, but a slower pace and focuses on pairing with his lead hand. Noah focuses on using his jab to set the pace and the right hand to block, and using his right hand to block and wait for hard-hitting shots. In the end, I feel that it is pretty obvious who is the best fighter in this division, having Jay Opataya's skill gap being on a higher level than all of his contemporaries. I still feel that every other fighter can give him a chance at having a hard fight, but I feel that after his Marius Breeders fight, he has truly evolved a step further than others, leaving him at the best fighter within his division. Moving on to our last division, we have Now we have the heavyweight division. Although being inactive, has a lot of good fighters such as Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Filip Hrgovic, Zhilei Zhang, Jared Anderson, and Deontay Wilder. To start, I'll be removing fighters who have less likely chance of breaking into the top 5, and that is Jared Anderson and Filip Hrgovic. Good fighters, but have lacking in some certain areas to break them into the top of the division. Now we are left with Zhang, Wilder, Usyk, Fury, and Joshua. But I feel that the next fighter would be removed is Zhang, who, although being a good fighter with good physical dimensions and good skills, I still feel like all the other guys have a better chance of beating him, and his age is starting to slowly catch up to him, and some of these faster fighters will give him problems that he hasn't faced beforehand. Now we are left with Fury, Joshua, Wilder, and Usyk. And next, I will remove a controversial figure who I believe is the weakest of this group, and that is Deontay, the Bronze Bomber, Wilder. Even though many people hope that he can beat AJ, I still see his lackluster skill set and his age not being able to sustain him any further, as he's lacking in skill, dependence on his right hand, and obsession with his power will not allow him to beat the other top guys in the division that easily, or even be able to cruise a unanimous decision. So I feel that he will be the 4th best fighter in the heavyweight division. Now we have Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury, and Anthony Joshua left. And I feel like the next one will be pretty much obvious as who's gonna be left out, and that is Anthony Joshua. Although being a great fighter, having beaten a lot of the top fighters in the division, Usyk has already shown that in his 2 outings that he can't be able to beat him, and he's outskilled him. And Tyson Fury's size and overall skill set also offer problems to Anthony Joshua, which I don't see him overcoming. So that would leave Anthony Joshua as the 3rd best heavyweight within his division. Now we are left to match up Usyk and Fury. Alexander Usyk is the former undisputed Cruiserweight champion and current unified champion at heavyweight, having 21 fights, 21 wins, 14 coming by way of knockout. Usyk has beaten great fighters like Anthony Joshua, Tony Bellew, Murad Gasayev, Marius Briedis, Mark Hawk, and Krzysztof Glowacki. Usyk is one of the greatest pure boxers within his division, making use of accurate punch selection, good stamina, and good footwork, making it hard for opponents to catch him on the way. Even though Usyk is seen to be weak to the body, he has shown the ability to get up and be able to outfight his opponents even during the toughest of situations. Usyk's punch placement, southpaw advantages, positioning, and using his good jab make him one of the top fighters in the division. Now we are left with Tyson Fury, the current WBC heavyweight champion, who has beaten great names like Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, Vladimir Klitschko, Otto Wallin, and Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury has an unpredictable and awkward style, making use of his lengthy reach and big dimensions. Fury's style makes use of his surprising speed and way to smother and drain his opponents as they struggle to figure out his rhythm and counter them. And he uses this way to press down on his opponents and cause them to get tired, which allows him to use his endless stamina to beat them down in the latter half of the rounds. In the end of the day, I see this fight narrowly going towards Alexander Usyk due to his skill set, tough opposition he's faced, and use of a jab that is better than Tyson Fury's. I feel like he offers him so many problems, as Fury struggles with fast-moving opponents and shorter opponents, which Alexander Usyk is both of them at a higher skill level. So I feel like Alexander Usyk can exploit Fury's inability to tuck away his chin during crucial points, and Tyson Fury's lack of experience fighting faster fighters than him. So in the end, I feel that Alexander Usyk is the best fighter in the heavyweight division. Thanks to all those who finished this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on if I got any of these kings of the division. If you guys enjoyed the Day of Reckoning card tomorrow, leave down your comments below on who you think takes home the biggest win of the division and who has the best performance. But anyways, it's been your boy TJ, and I'll see you later, fight fans.